Hey fellow music fans, welcome back to Psychology of Rock. If you're new here, my name's Nina, and today I'm going to be responding to and adding on to a brilliant video put out by Rick Beato where he talks about why he feels that Gen Z does not seem to care about music that much. Now this video came out probably about a year ago, but I've never really stopped thinking about it. So today I want to talk about some of the points he brought up and add in my own theories, looking at the topic through a slightly more psychological lens. Now, if you haven't seen Rick's video, I absolutely recommend watching. I will go ahead and link it down in the description box below. He's got some very insightful commentary that is definitely worth listening to. But please keep in mind that, of course, there's going to be exceptions to what we're talking about today. Absolutely, there are members of Gen Z who do care about music, maybe even more so than generations of the past. And if you are a young person that's watching this video, it is very likely that you are one of those exceptions. So they definitely exist. However, research really does show us that music is becoming a smaller focus in people's lives. We know that people now listen to music less often and for shorter periods of time, and that fewer people are learning to play instruments. Now, during the pandemic, according to a study done by Fender, there was a pretty big uptick in people picking up instruments during that time because they had a lot more free time on their hands. But since then, things have kind of leveled out, and that decline seems to be continuing. Now, I have to say that this whole phenomenon is a little strange and sad to me because music has honestly been one of the biggest influences in my life and one of the biggest sources of joy. Not only am I passionate about music, but I truly believe that it helped to shape me as a person and that it continues to affect my life as an adult in a very positive way. It was probably about 10 years ago when I started to notice that younger people did not seem to share this passion and that music just did not seem to be the priority in their lives like it was for me. Now, I am Gen X and I actually grew up in the punk scene. I didn't gravitate to rock music until I was a little bit older, but I really don't think there was even a weekend that went by that I didn't go to see at least one band play live. And talking about music, listening to music, and playing guitar were all just huge parts of my life. And I feel like this really was kind of universal at that time. Everyone, of course, had different musical tastes, but you weren't going to find people that just didn't listen to music, including my parents, including even my grandparents. Now, in Rick's video, he shares a lot of the same sentiments. He's a boomer, and boomers and Gen X and even millennials to some degree do share this strong attachment to music, which Gen Z really does not seem to share. And in his video, he really talks about how he came up with this theory for why that is the case. And it came about when he was playing video games with his children. They were all playing video games, and they were just so focused in on what they were doing that even though there was music playing in the background of the game, nobody was paying attention to it because they were so into what they were doing. And he realized later that since this generation is so used to having these overwhelming and all-encompassing sensory experiences, that it just does not seem stimulating enough for them to merely be listening to music. And I think he has a very valid point. He then talks about how different this new experience is from how he grew up when it was a big deal to buy albums and to listen to them with your friends, which I definitely also have fantastic memories of. Music really was a way for us to connect with one another, which we really just don't see anymore. In the past, there was no bigger sign of affection or friendship than making someone a mixtape or a burned CD. And this was a way for us to kind of get to know one another, and we were profoundly impacted by the music that we shared. I can think of several cases specifically where I was introduced to new music by other people that genuinely changed my life. But this is something that we don't really see anymore because people don't really share music and they don't really talk about music. Music really isn't used as a way to enhance social connections anymore or for people to express themselves. And this is very different from past generations because music was a way for us to showcase place our identity. It was very connected to our sense of self. And I think Rick's theory to explain this behavior change really makes a lot of sense because there truly are so many things competing for Gen Z's attention. They do have video games, they have social media, they have all kinds of other entertainment, and a lot of times they are engaging with them all at the same time. So just simply sitting down and only listening to music is not going to feel exciting or stimulating enough in comparison to all these other types of entertainment. And I think a lot of us just can't wrap our heads around it because our own experience was so very different. I think about all the hours I spent in my room alone with headphones on, listening intensely to music, giving it my full attention. But that's something that is very unlikely to happen today. If someone chooses to listen to music, most likely they're also going to have the TV on, or they're also going to be scrolling on their phone. So they're not going to have that same level of attachment because even if they're listening to music, it is not the primary focus. I also want to quickly mention that there's actually a lot of research to back Rick's theory, and there's also a lot of evidence to suggest that our attention spans are in decline because of constant digital stimulation and multitasking and hypermedia engagement and information overload. And two specific studies come to mind that I will go ahead and link down in the description box below just in case you want to read a little bit more about them. And sadly, this suggests that in addition to there being less of an interest in music, it may actually be more difficult in today's world to sustain attention long enough to sit down and listen to music for any significant amount of time because our brains really are changing. So Rick definitely has a point here. I think something else that we need to point out is that there's been a dramatic change in how people consume music over the years. And with the rise of streaming services, I don't think that people are as invested in individual albums or artists like they used to be. They're more likely to listen to random playlists or whatever's in the background of a YouTube video or a TikTok or whatever it is they are watching. It's not like they are really seeking out music. I also don't think that there are as many opportunities for Gen Z to be exposed to quality music. And I think one of the biggest reasons for this is that they simply do not watch television. And I know at least for my generation, one of the primary ways we found new music was through MTV. This is when they actually showed real videos and not just reality television. We had the daily top 10, so you could stay up with whatever was popular in music, but we also had shows like 120 Minutes and Headbangers Ball, so we knew what was happening in metal and alternative music, and it was always really exciting when a new video dropped. And it's not like there are not music videos now. There are amazing music videos, but you have to seek them out. You have to know what to look for, and I don't think this generation knows what to look for or even cares enough to look. I think another psychological change came when we stopped buying actual albums. So now we have the music because we can get it from a streaming service, but we don't have the physical object. And I think when we had the actual album, we felt very connected to the artist. We felt like we had a little piece of them. I know I would spend hours in my room just reading the liner notes and memorizing the lyrics and staring at the photographs. And of course, we would listen to the entire album. We would never just listen to one song. We would have the entire experience. And these songs and these albums really became part of our life. They were part of our world. They were really the soundtrack of our lives. I also think we had a greater connection to albums and artists simply because of sparsity. We could only afford to have a certain amount of albums because they were expensive, so we listened to them over and over and over again. And if you did not have an album, you had to wait to hear a song on the radio or hope to see the video on MTV. Whereas now you can pretty much listen to any song ever written whenever you feel like it for free, so the relationship is going to be completely different. You're probably only going to listen to a song a few times at most, whereas we listened to these songs so many times they became part of our soul. I also don't think that accessibility to artists really feels that special anymore. It used to be really exciting when we got to see an interview or there was a blurb about a band we liked in a magazine. We felt lucky to see it because it was rare. Now it's almost like there's too much exposure. We see everything. We can go on TikTok and see an artist brushing their teeth or walking their dog, and they are just too accessible. It's not rare anymore. We don't have to work for it. So I think that is something that is definitely changing our relationship with artists as well. Something that makes me optimistic about the future of music, however, and the potential for Gen Z and future generations to connect with music is some of the amazing artists that I see coming out lately, especially in the genres of rock and metal. I think we are seeing some truly exceptional artists. I think we haven't seen that in a long time. I know every generation has had standouts and masterpieces, but music is simply not what it used to be. But I am starting to see that change a lot. I definitely don't think that the commercialization and the overproduction and lack of creativity that we've seen in recent years has helped any of this. And I think that Gen Z can spot that a lot of music is just manufactured. It's not authentic. It's all about the visual impact and not about the music itself. And it's hard to connect yourself with something that you do feel is inauthentic. And if that is something that is starting to change, there is the potential for the relationship to music itself to change. But honestly, the conclusion I've come to is that music simply serves a different function for people now. It plays a very different role in the lives of younger generations. In the past, it had a lot more to do with social connection and self-expression, identity, and shared experiences, whereas for Gen Z, it really represents none of these things. It always has seemed that music has defined every single generation, and it was a prominent part of our lives. It was something that was always in the forefront, and now it's something that only seems to be in the background. And it's funny because I always ask people to name 5 to 10 albums that have changed their lives. And in the past, no one would ever hesitate to answer because there were always musical experiences that absolutely changed them as a person. But when I ask people now, younger people, sometimes they can't even think of one. Maybe they have a favorite artist or a favorite album, maybe, but none of these things really have truly changed them as a person, or at least that's what they say. So that is a very big change. And of course, as a musician and a music lover, my thoughts on all this are going to be completely biased because music has always been such a highlight in my life, and I want other people to have the same positive experiences. But I think it's also important to acknowledge that life is different now and that people do have different priorities and experiences, and it's natural that this is going to change their relationship with music. And I can't really say whether or not I am completely optimistic that this can change, but I really hope that it does, because I truly believe that music can have a profound impact on our life that goes well beyond just mere entertainment. And you never know, sometimes things do go from one extreme to the other, so there is still a chance, but only time will tell. So those are my thoughts on Gen Z and music, but I would love to hear yours, so don't forget to leave a comment down below. Also, do not forget to check out Rick's amazing video. I will have it linked down in the description box below. I really hope you enjoyed today's analysis. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next week.